Many people today are feeling an unsettling sense of uncertainty. Political tensions are rising, environmental shifts are accelerating, and spiritual confusion seems more widespread than ever before. Yet amid the chaos of our modern world, something unexpected is stirring. The quiet words of a humble girl from the 19th century once overlooked are beginning to echo again with surprising clarity. That girl was Saint Bernadette of Lourdes, and what she experienced more than 160 years ago is now being reconsidered not just as a historical event, but as a message that might speak directly to our time, especially in this pivotal year of 2025. Born on January 7, 1844, in the small village of Lourdes, France, Bernadette was the eldest of 9 children in a very poor family. Her father, a miller, lost his job, and at one point, the family was so destitute they had to live in a one-room building that had once served as a jail. Bernadette was also plagued by illness, suffering from asthma and other serious conditions which kept her out of school and left her barely able to read or write. Despite these hardships, Bernadette was known for her gentleness, humility, and quiet strength. She helped care for her siblings and did whatever chores she could, including gathering firewood. Nobody expected much from her, and yet her life would soon change in a way no one could have imagined. On February 11, 1858, while collecting firewood near the grotto at Massabielle with her sister and a friend, Bernadette experienced something extraordinary. She heard a sudden rush of wind, though the trees remained still. Looking up, she saw a lady dressed in white, with a blue sash, golden roses on her feet, and a rosary in her hands. Bernadette, unsure who the woman was, simply called her Aquero, a local dialect word meaning that one. Over the next few months, Bernadette saw the lady 18 times. The messages she received were not grand predictions, but gentle calls to prayer, penance, and peace. As word spread, some believed her immediately. Others dismissed her or accused her of lying. Bernadette, however, never changed her story. She didn't dramatize what she saw. She simply described the lady and repeated her words. Then came the revelation that shocked the local clergy. During one of the final apparitions, the lady told Bernadette, "I am the Immaculate Conception." This was a theological term recently declared a dogma by the Catholic Church, something a poor, uneducated village girl would have had no way of knowing on her own. This moment shifted public opinion and drew growing belief that Bernadette was telling the truth. Soon after, a spring of water began to flow from the grotto at the lady's request. People began visiting in search of healing. To this day, the waters of Lourdes continue to flow and inspire. Over 70 healings have been officially recognized by the Church as medically unexplainable. After the apparitions, Bernadette withdrew from public life and entered a convent. She didn't seek fame or fortune. She served quietly, working with the sick and poor, all while enduring intense physical suffering. Tuberculosis eventually took her life in 1879 at just 35 years old. She never sought the spotlight. She simply remained faithful. In 1933, she was canonized a saint. Her body, found to be remarkably well preserved, displayed in Nevers, France, where thousands still come to visit. For our time, but Bernadette's story may not have ended in the 19th century. Some of her private reflections, shared during her final years in the convent, are drawing renewed attention in 2025. These were not dramatic prophecies, but quiet spiritual impressions, words that feel especially relevant today. There will come a time of great shaking, a moment when the world will be humbled, but grace will not be far behind. The world will tremble, but faith will rise. These simple statements resonate now more than ever. The world is indeed trembling, from war to division, economic instability to environmental crisis, and yet at the same time, there is a hunger, a spiritual hunger, growing in many hearts. People are looking for something deeper, for meaning, for peace, for hope. Lourdes isn't flashy. It isn't filled with big screens or famous names. It is a place of silence, slow walking, reflection, and prayer. That is what Bernadette always wanted. Her story wasn't about grand visions. It was about faith in suffering, humility in the face of mockery, and truth told quietly. Even those who don't consider themselves religious can find something in her life, because at its heart, this isn't just a story about visions. It's about hope. It's about a young girl who stayed true to what she believed. A girl who endured sickness, rejection, and pain and never gave up. A girl whose quiet testimony is still echoing in the hearts of people 160 years later. As the world continues to change rapidly in 2025, we find ourselves faced with the same questions Bernadette's life quietly asks. Where do we place our trust? In power? In wealth? In technology? Or in something deeper? Her story doesn't offer flashy answers. It offers something better. A path back to the basics: prayer, humility, kindness, and faith. A reminder that the greatest voice. But beyond the physical healings, many pilgrims say the true miracle is what happens in their hearts, a sense of peace, clarity, and hope that they didn't have before. Lourdes is not about big speeches or bright lights. It's a place of quiet prayer, of walking slowly, reflecting, and reconnecting with God. And that's exactly what Bernadette wanted. She didn't want attention. She didn't build a ministry or write a book. She simply lived her life faithfully and passed on the messages she received. Her story reminds us that God often chooses the humble, the forgotten, and the weak to share powerful messages. As more people revisit her words today, they are starting to see patterns not just in the past, but in what's happening now. In 2025, many people feel the world is being tested. We are seeing rapid changes, and at the same time, a spiritual hunger is growing. This hunger is not about religion as an institution, but about a deeper need for connection, peace, and meaning. Saint Bernadette's life teaches us that faith doesn't always come with loud voices or grand events. Sometimes it comes through silence, suffering, and service. Her messages were not threats or warnings. They were calls to prayer, repentance, and trust in God's mercy. These are the same values that many people are rediscovering today in a world that feels more confused and disconnected than ever. There's also something important about her simplicity. Bernadette never tried to appear wise or important. She never used difficult words or complicated ideas. She just shared what she saw in her own simple way. And perhaps that's why her message still speaks today. Because in a world full of noise, her quiet voice stands out. It reminds us that truth doesn't have to be loud, and that miracles don't always look like lightning from the sky. Sometimes they look like a spring of water flowing from the ground, like a sick young girl who chooses faith over fear. Today, in 2025, it's not about whether Bernadette predicted this year with dates or details. It's about whether her words still speak to our hearts. And for many people, they do. Her quiet testimony is reminding people to look beyond the surface of the world and return to the basics: prayer, humility, kindness, and faith. Even those who are not religious can find meaning in her story, because at its heart, it's not just a story about visions or miracles. It's a story about hope, about a young girl who never gave up even when she was sick, poor, and misunderstood. A girl who stood firm in what she believed even when people mocked her. And a girl who, more than 160 years later, is still inspiring people around the world. As we look at everything happening around us, from economic struggles to climate fears to cultural shifts, we can ask ourselves, what are we putting our trust in? Is it technology, politics, money, or is it something deeper? Bernadette's story invites us to consider that maybe peace doesn't come from control or success, but from surrender and faith. This year, as the world continues to change quickly, Saint Bernadette's message feels like a calm voice.